Hi everyone, welcome to the staff meeting. I'm Mila. As you may have known, we have a recently enrolled student named Luca with his twin brother George and older sister Aliana. Luca is a grade 3 student with phonological dyslexia and mild cerebral palsy. So there has been some discussions among teachers and parents about whether Luca should join the mainstream classroom or the separate units. And so as an advocate of inclusive education, in this video I'm going to share with you why I strongly believe that Luca belongs to the mainstream classrooms and why our school should close the separate units. And so we're going to look at inclusive education from its legal and ethical aspects, its impacts on the school community, how we can include students with disability like Luca, and how we can address parents' concerns. So let's get started. First of all, let's take a look at how inclusive education has evolved in Australia and internationally so that we understand why it is important in Australia. So in short, Australia has been through exclusion and segregation, then integration, and now towards genuine inclusion. So how did we get here? Well, until the late 1800s, children with disabilities were denied education, kept at home, or placed in institutions. Segregated schools existed, but they were only for children with sensory impairments. Things began to change in the 1960s when the normalization movement advocated for closing institutions. Australia was strongly influenced by the Warnock Report. We started to recognize that, well, children with disabilities should attend regular schools where possible. However, teaching practices and curriculum remained largely unchanged and did not yet cater for the needs of students with disability. This was not yet inclusion, but rather integration. After decades of fighting, from the 1990s onwards, we started to have legal frameworks that supports the rights of people with disabilities. So these include the Disability Discrimination Act 1992, which clearly states that it is unlawful to discriminate on the ground of disability, especially in employment and education. And then we have the Disability Standards for Education 2005, which established the right to inclusive education, requiring schools to make reasonable adjustments so students with disability can access and participate in education on the same basis as their peers. And globally, the progress towards inclusive education aligns with Australia's international commitments. These include the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the Salamanca Statement, and the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. So together, Australia is committed to providing equitable access and participation in education for people with disability. So with national and international frameworks in place, we can confidently state that inclusive education is now a legal obligation for all education providers, including our school. Yet, segregated settings are still a reality in Australia due to limited staff training and lingering beliefs that specialist settings are safer or more effective. It is also important to acknowledge that inclusive education is not only a legal obligation, but also a matter of upholding human rights and social justice. So as we have mentioned above, Australia has committed to protecting people's rights to education, particularly the rights of people with disability to inclusive education. However, separate units deny students like Luca access to the full curriculum and exclude them from learning and playing with their peers. So this gatekeeping limits opportunities to acquire the same knowledge and skills essential for future learning, employment, and living a fulfilling life. So this does not fulfill the right to inclusion and is clearly a violation of human rights. On top of that, separate units deepen social inequality because they violate three core pillars of social justice. First of all, the inequitable distribution of educational resources and opportunities is a violation of the principle of redistribution. Second, the segregation denies students with disability the opportunity to participate fully in the school community. This is a violation of the principle of participation. And most importantly, Segregation is inherently ableist and discriminatory because it implies that students with disability are less capable and do not belong in the same classroom as their peers. So for Luca, this message is even more evident if he cannot learn in the same classroom with his twin brother George. Imagine how it would feel to be separated from your twin sibling because you are deemed less worthy. So this is a violation of the principle of recognition. So even when done with good intention, separation is still unlawful, unjust, and discriminatory. Next, let's look at inclusive education of the impacts of inclusive education on our school community. So I strongly believe that through differentiation models like universal design of learning and the maker model, we can make inclusive education beneficial for everyone. So how does that work in practice? Well, for Luca and other students with disability, they can learn and play on the same basis as their peers. This ensures equal opportunity in further education, employment, and living a fulfilling life. Being in the same classroom with George would tremendously improve his confidence and self-esteem. And also because learning adjustments are offered as universal options for all students, impairments become less visible. This maintains the dignity for Luca and other students with disability. Then for Luca's parents, as a sister of a disabled sibling, I deeply understand how all parents want their children to be included, belong, and having the same opportunities as their peers. No parents would want their children to go a separate classroom unless it is their only choice. So with inclusive education, we can make this vision a reality. For students without disability, they also benefit from the flexible learning options and exposure to diverse peers. For example, not only students with dyslexia, but also visual learners and EALD students can use videos or visuals to support understanding. So this improves engagement, fosters respect, and normalizes differences. For teachers, well, inclusive education may require more thought planning, but if they plan from the outset, that helps them avoid constant individual adjustments and adapt teaching to students' strengths and interests. So that allows teachers like us to meet students' needs efficiently, enhance engagement and outcome for all, and create an inclusive classroom culture. For school leadership, well, they play a crucial role in creating an inclusive school environment, ensuring that students with disability and their parents are listened to, and that teachers like us have the time, resources, and skills required for inclusive education. And inclusive education also enables allied health professionals to share their expertise while also understanding the real context of learning and participation. So that ensures that interventions are relevant and effective. Okay, now let's look at how we can support Luca's learning and participation. Well, Luca has mild cerebral palsy, which is a brain injury that affects his fine motor control, making tasks like handwriting, cutting, and coloring more effortful. On top of that, he has phonological dyslexia, which stems from difficulties with phonological awareness, grapheme phoneme conversions, and verbal shorter memory, which are all crucial for reading, spelling, and writing. So that creates barriers in learning academic and subject-specific vocabulary, accessing knowledge in the form of text, expressing his ideas in writing, and learning new concepts. Despite the difficulties, he demonstrates strengths in grasping meaning in spoken language, strong oral expression, and visual spatial awareness. So I think that we can support Lucas' access and engagement with content through multisensory representation, and learning activities for him should be hands-on, meaning-focused, and connected to his experiences. And he also benefits from varied options to demonstrate his learning through typing, voice typing, oral responses, or even video recordings. Finally, I know that some parents may worry that inclusion could disadvantage other students, so here's how I would respond to their concerns. I hear your concern, but we design lessons from the outset so that every student has the options that work best for them, so that benefits everyone. This ensures Luca isn't singled out or reliant on constant one-on-one support, and also leaves engagement for the whole class while meeting the standards requirements that all students learn on the same basis. So, by acknowledging their concerns, offering reassurance, and maintaining open communication, I believe that we can strengthen parents' trust in our professional practice and belief in inclusive education. That brings me to the conclusion. I hope that this video has helped deepen your understanding of inclusive education, including its legal and ethical aspects and how it benefits the entire school community. Once again, I believe that with the right knowledge, mindset, and collaboration, we can create genuinely inclusive learning environments for all of our students. Thank you for listening.